The rusted gate groaned like a dying breath as I pushed it open. It had been years, maybe decades, since anyone had entered the old Crestwood School. The ivy-covered walls whispered stories of a time I could barely imagine. But I had to be there. I had to understand the secrets that stained this place, the reason it was known as the school where the class that never left still resided. Dust motes danced in faint sunbeams, piercing through broken windows, illuminating grimy desks, and blackboards scrawled with illegible messages. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the rustling wind outside and my own hammering heart. Every step echoed through the deserted hallways, as if ghosts were repeating my movements. In the old principal's office, I found a dusty diary. The cover was faded, but the words "incident log" were still visible. My hands trembled as I opened the first page. Reports of missing students, whispers in empty corridors, unexplained phenomena. The more I read, the more the feeling of not being alone intensified. I climbed the creaking stairs to the second floor where the classrooms were. In one of them, the blackboard still displayed an unfinished lesson about historical disappearances. A shiver ran down my spine. Was it a coincidence? Or was there a dark connection between the past and present of that abandoned school? That's when I heard it, a faint sound, almost a murmur, coming from the end of the hall. It sounded like voices. Children? Impossible. There was no one else there but me. But the paranormal melody continued, drawing me into the depths of the school like a macabre siren song. I reached the last room. The door was ajar, revealing dense darkness. I hesitated, but curiosity, mixed with growing fear, pushed me inside. And there they were, indistinct shadows, whispering in unison, their faces hidden in the gloom. I felt an icy chill, as if death itself embraced me. One of the shadows moved, extending a pale hand towards me. A faint, spectral voice echoed in the air. "You too won't leave." Panic paralyzed me. Who were these children? What happened to the class that never left? And what did they want from me in that haunted school? The answer, I feared, was about to be revealed in the dark corners of Crestwood, a place where time seemed to have stopped, and the mysteries would never be fully unraveled. Asterisk, asterisk, what happened in Crestwood? The air in the room grew thick, heavy, as if every cubic inch was filled with the pain and despair of those who never left. The shadow's outstretched hand seemed to reach not just for my body, but for my soul, pulling me into an abyss of terror. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet were nailed to the floor, covered in dust and cobwebs. "We just want to play," another voice whispered, this time from a smaller figure that seemed to be a girl. Her eyes, or what I imagined them to be, glowed with a faint, melancholic light. The teacher told us to wait, but she never came back. The teacher. Suddenly, a piece of the puzzle clicked into place, but it brought with it more questions. The diary. It mentioned a teacher, Evelyn, who had mysteriously disappeared around the same time the first students began to vanish. Could she be the key to this horrifying mystery? The shadowy girl took a step forward, her spectral form almost solidifying for an instant. I could glimpse a trace of an old, torn, and dirty school uniform. They said it was a game, where the last one to be found wins. My blood ran cold. A hide-and-seek game gone terribly wrong? But how? And why were they trapped here? I needed more information, but the atmosphere was becoming unbearable. I felt an invisible pressure on my chest, as if the school itself was crushing me. Asterisk, asterisk. It was then that a different sound pierced the morbid silence. Not the sound of children, but something older, more mechanical, the clanging of a bell. Not the recess bell, but a different, sharper, more insistent sound coming from somewhere deep within the school's bowels. The shadows recoiled, their spectral forms flickering. The murmuring increased, but now it was from panic, not invitation. "It's the alarm," a deeper voice exclaimed, filled with fear. "He doesn't like strangers. He doesn't like us talking." The bell continued, now louder, a metallic echo that resonated throughout the school's structure, making the walls tremble. I could feel the anger, the possessiveness emanating from that sound. It wasn't an ordinary bell. It was a ghostly guardian, an entity that didn't want Crestwood's secrets revealed, nor the class that never left. Disturbed, the children's shadows began to dissipate, pulled away by the bell's force, or perhaps by fear of the entity it represented. The last thing I heard from the little girl, before she completely vanished into the ether, was a desperate whisper. "The teacher, she's in the foundation room." Asterisk, asterisk. The bell was now deafening, seeming to come from all directions. It was a terrifying sound that propelled me. I needed to get out of there, but I also needed to know what the girl meant. Foundation room? I'd never seen one on the school map. Was it a secret room? I ran out of the room, the bell pulsating in my ears. The air in the corridor seemed to vibrate with a malignant energy. I could feel a presence following me, not the children, but something much older and more hostile. Classroom doors slammed shut on their own, windows rattled. The school was alive, and it was angry as I rushed down the stairs. A tall, distorted silhouette briefly appeared at the end of the first-floor hallway, blocking my exit. It wasn't a child. It was something different, larger, more menacing. Its eyes, or what seemed to be eyes, glowed with a faint red light. I couldn't hesitate any longer. Adrenaline surged through my veins. The foundation room, the teacher. I needed to discover what was hidden, what kept those spirits trapped, and what the bell was protecting. But first, I needed to escape the invisible horror that was chasing me. Asterisk, asterisk, I ran. I ran like I'd never run before, the bell hammering in my mind each beat a nail in my coffin. The distorted silhouette in the hallway seemed to swallow me, and I could feel the air grow cold with its furious presence. I stumbled down the stairs, fear propelling me, the sole objective of finding the exit. I managed to slip past the silhouette. On the ground floor, which dissolved into the cold air as soon as I passed it, but the bell's fury intensified. Desperate, I looked for a door, a window, anything. That's when my eyes fell on a small, almost imperceptible metal door, hidden behind a toppled bookshelf in the old library. The rusted plaque read, "Foundation Room." It was a basement. The smell of mold and earth was overwhelming. I stumbled down the steps, my phone's flashlight flickering, revealing a circular room with a single table in the center. On it was a thick, dusty book, the school's original registry. I opened it with trembling hands. Lists of names, enrollment dates, classes, and further down, a departure section. Many names followed by transferred, graduated. But on the oldest page, under the class of 1957, there was a list of names with the annotation missing next to them. They were the children, the class that never left, but something caught my eye. On the list, right below Evelyn Reed's name, the teacher's, there was one last name without any annotation. A name that made my heart stop, my own, my vision blurred. I didn't remember studying there. I'd never been to Crestwood before. Or had I? A wave of suppressed memories hit me like lightning. The smell of chalk, the sound of recess, a child's laughter, the feeling of being trapped somewhere dark, waiting for the bell that never rang for dismissal. The bell. The bell. It wasn't warning me to flee. It was calling me back. I looked up from the book, and in the corner of the room, I saw an old full-length mirror covered by a sheet. My body acted on its own. I pulled the fabric off Dot in the reflection. It wasn't just me. Behind my own pale, terrified image, there were others. The faces of the shadowy children, blurry and pale, but unmistakable, smiling sadly. And in the center of my forehead, glowing faintly, a mark I had never seen before, a small insignia, identical to the crest on the 1957 students' uniforms. The bell stopped. The silence that followed was worse than any noise, a silence that seemed to seal my fate. There was no escape. There was no flight. I wasn't an intruder, a curious explorer. I was the last one to be found. The last one to remember Dot after all. I was part of the class that never left. And now I was home. Forever. Asterisk.